Cage Nation TV is brought to you by Lion Country's Rock Station 105.9 Quick Rock. Streaming worldwide at 1059quickrock.com.
Let's go. Welcome to the Cage Nation. Welcome to the Cage Nation. Welcome to the Cage Nation. No one can drop us, no one can stop us. We are the warriors, no one can top us, no one can rock us. We are the warriors, no one can drop us, no one can stop us. We are the warriors, no one can top us, no one can rock us. We are the warriors.
Welcome everyone to a long overdue episode of Cage Nation TV. Drew Shannon, Albert Cameron, via phone right now, because unfortunately he's not able to be here in studio, but we're glad to have him on the phone.
Absolutely.
Mr. Rob Lynn, who, as of today, this very day, when we're taping this, March 15th, 2015, this is Rob's 1-year anniversary with Cage Nation TV, and Rob, we're glad to have you on board. We thank you so much for everything you've done for us with Cage Nation TV. We're glad to have you, man.
Hey, thank you so much. Do I get a gold watch after a year?
No.
After a year?
Oh.
This
No.
isn't a state job.
Dude, you get to go to MMA fights. I mean, come on, man. You really need the gold watch?
Well, I wasn't sure if it was like, you get a sweater or a rocking chair, after so many, what your tenure is.
We'll see about the sweater, okay?
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right.
Well, of course, springtime is almost upon us. The weather is heating up, and so is the local and regional action in MMA. We've got a lot to talk about. We've been gone for a while because of the weather, basically.
It was terrible, but and Rob, perfect attendance, Lynn, was in attendance last night for Gladiators Cage. Was it 16, Rob?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
It was 16, yeah.
Gladiators Cage 16. Last night, of course, Anthony Pettis and Carla Esparza didn't do so hot defending their titles at UFC last night. And then I'm gonna put the thing to bed with Ronda Rousey and Cris Cyborg, because a lot like the UFC Monopoly discussion, I'm tired of hearing about it. Whenever Ronda Rousey's mom has to get involved, that's when you know it's time to it's time to stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Mommy.
I got a bronze medal, Mom. Tell that big Brazilian woman to stop being mean to me. It's time for that to end.
Well, we're going to get into all of that and more coming up next on this episode of Cage Nation TV. So stick around. We are live at the Quick Rock Studios, 315 South Atherton Street. Again, thanks to our good friends at Quick Rock. My good friends at Quick Rock. Our good friends at Quick Rock.
And Rob listens to Quick Rock too, don't you, Rob?
Yeah, heck yeah. They're my favorite radio station.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back.
Welcome back to Cage Nation TV. Drew Shannon, Albert Cameron, via phone, Rob Lynn. Let's get into it. I know you want to talk about this, and you want this to be the last conversation.
Stop talking about it.
I don't think it's going to ever be the last conversation.
It'll be the last conversation for us.
Okay.
Just outside of some things, it's Ronda Rousey's mom took to Twitter, and that's what really just kind of pissed me off about it.
All right, we're talking about Ronda Rousey and Cris Cyborg.
Yeah. Was it Rob? Cyborg agreed to go to 35.
You're sure?
She said she...
She's been so wishy-washy on it. I don't know where, I'll die. Tito Ortiz says I can't do it. My doctor says I won't be able to have kids. Where is she at with it? What is the latest?
Last I heard, she said she'd agree to go to 35. So then she said she'll go to 35, and then she tweets Ronda Rousey, does Lorenzo Fertitta do you need Lorenzo Fertitta's number? And then Rousey's mom comes back on Twitter saying the only number you need to be concerned with is 135.
What does mommy have to do with all this?
Nothing. That is the point. She has nothing to do with it. Yes, she was a world champion in judo, and that's fantastic. She did a lot of things. Raising a world champion daughter who has the ethic to go in and put the work, cut the weight, and continue training to be the best.
Right.
She has done her job as a fight mother. We don't need... Honey Boo Boo's mom will go to Twitter.
Yeah,
we don't need Ronda Rousey's mom going to Twitter and to bat. Ronda has a perfectly fine backing up her own mouth.
I've never heard of stage mothers in MMA at all. I mean...
We don't... They're professional fighters. They get beat up for a living. Do you need your mom backing you up? That's like Mama Dinuski being like, hey, I heard you don't listen to Drew's show on Quick Rock.
Yeah.
You should listen to Drew's show. You don't need that because you're a big boy who can handle your own business.
Exactly.
Same thing with Ronda Rousey.
Any publicity would help if my mom did want to, tell people to listen, but whatever.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, Rob, I mean...
This
Rob,
is working out so well.
Rob, I'd love to know what you think about Rousey's mom going to bat for her.
Okay, I can't stand Ronda's mom.
Okay, why is that?
Just listen to her speak, and then why is she relevant to the conversation?
She shouldn't be. That's my point.
Like, anytime Rousey comes up, they always, ask her mom. Well, I really don't care what her mom has to say. I mean, do we want to ask my mom what her opinion on me having an opinion on Rousey's mom is?
Not particularly.
Exactly. Her mother should not be involved in the conversation whatsoever.
Right.
Like, if her mother is a licensed corner and she's training her and she's in the corner at the fight and she's in the gym coming up with the meal plan and coming up with the striking plan and the judo plan, fine, okay, then I get it. She's relevant to the conversation on, those little TV shows that count down to the UFC or UFC Embedded or UFC Prime Time.
Right.
To me, I don't know, this is just like interviewing the janitor at the rock concert where Metallica is playing. He's relevant to someone's life, but he's not relevant to the discussion. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean...
And her...
Go ahead.
Her mom it means nothing to me. And then, just, I don't know, I don't like to look at her mom either. I'm just going to put that one out there. And... I don't know. She just rubs me the wrong way, as I'm sure I do many people. So maybe I should be careful what I say.
Well, I mean, but you're relevant to the conversation. We're a media outlet who's talking about how we're tired of media outlets going to Ronda Rousey's mom about it. It's the same as that knucklehead who put on MMA Mania that our representative Brock Lesnar said he was going to unify the WWE and UFC heavyweight titles. We know that that's a joke.
We know that was a comment made by Paul Heyman on Monday Night Raw. It was meant as a work.
Completely irrelevant to the UFC.
But he took it as gospel.
I think he was kidding. He just didn't know how to communicate that he was kidding well enough.
No, I read the story and I'm like, this dude actually think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But
regardless, I mean, we're going to talk about national media enough today.
It's obvious that Ronda Rousey can back up her own words, okay?
She's an undefeated...
Heck yeah.
She's an undefeated champion.
14 seconds against Kat Zingano, and done.
Well, Rob, what is the fundamental? What is the fundamental of judo? That you're going to use someone's... Well, the basis of judo, and this came from Pat Johnson, who's a second-degree judo black belt, that... one of the large premises of judo is you're going to use someone's momentum against them. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
The idea is not to have, there's muscle involved in it, but you don't want to have to just think 100% strength on strength because the strength on strength you win.
Right.
It's always the stronger.
So with that being said,
how would you charge a judo black belt? Why would you charge a judo Olympian?
Thank you.
Why would you charge a judo yellow belt? Let alone a judo Olympian.
So, I have to assume one of two things. One, Kat Zingano had no real interest in winning that fight, or two, she's completely oblivious to the art of judo.
Some would think.
Yeah.
I mean,
she just got excited and she wanted to give her a hug.
A pre-fight hug instead of touching gloves.
Yeah,
But that's the point. So Ronda Rousey, judo black belt champion, she has backed her mouth up. Does not need her mom. Interesting enough, I don't think we should be talking about this whatsoever because Cris Cyborg has a hard time making 145, let alone 135. 135 is just not a question to me.
Right.
Well, okay. We are tired of this, but let's talk about it for a minute. Let's entertain some of the discussion.
That's why we're going to get it on the table right now.
Okay. So let's say that in Fantasyland, Cyborg comes in. I want to call her Guyborg, like Rousey does. So that's what Rousey called her. Rousey called her Guyborg at some point.
Cyborg, that's...
So, okay, so Guyborg comes in at 135. She makes the weight. She ruins her life and her health, but she makes the weight.
In her mommy factory.
She makes the weight, and she comes prepared to fight.
Right.
So now we have Rousey and Cyborg. So we look at what Cyborg's last fight was. Cyborg battered Charmaine Tweet. I mean, it was a thorough shellacking. So they said to Rousey, hey, what's going on here? What do you think? So she goes, oh yeah, Charmaine Tweet, I destroyed her in like my whatever fight. I think she said her second fight, and she's like, I armbarred her in less time.
Right.
Now, I don't know what world 49 seconds is quicker than 46 seconds. But what Rousey did there was she essentially acted like the Charmaine Tweet that Cyborg fought was the same one that Rousey fought. And yeah, they're the same in name.
Yeah, but
I mean, what, 10, 11 fights later?
Every day you go to training, you're a different fighter than you were the day before. So it's...
I would hope so, and I would think that Rousey would know that the idea, and one of the principles of judo, is that we all make each other better, right?
Iron sharpens iron.
Charmaine's training with other people.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So we have Guyborg who batters Charmaine in less time, and it improved Charmaine. To me, that was like her just, I'm going to cut down her accomplishment. Okay, I want to say this. I know I'm all over the map today, but, okay, the idea when you tout to me that Rousey is an Olympian, and she is.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot deny that she is.
No, not even
But
close.
there's a certain level of class that I think an Olympian is supposed to possess.
Possess it all.
To me, if you shove down my throat that someone's an Olympian, they need to behave like one. And me personally, this is my personal agenda here, I believe heavily in judo, maybe more the spirituality than the technique since I don't train as much, but in my mind it's on and off the mat. So if she's an Olympic judo player, she needs to behave, one, as a judoka, and two, as an Olympian. So her cutting down someone else's accomplishments, to me, that's against what we stand for. And if you analyze that, I honestly think that Rousey doesn't want to fight her, even if she makes weight.
Here's my two thoughts on that, Rob. One, was Tweet a contender that with a victory over Tweet, did Cyborg step any closer to be the elite? No.
At 135, no.
No, Charmaine Tweet was not an opponent of any consequence that we should be like, oh man, she beat her. No. Two, Cyborg is a monster at 45. If you look at Cris Cyborg versus Gina Carano has always been a national featherweight. She's never had any interest in dropping to bantamweight. And Cyborg is huge compared to Carano. So, I understand her argument that, yes, I'm going to drop, I can't drop to 35. There's a lot of things that go into account whenever a woman cuts weight. There's, the different body types. Menstruation has a lot to do with that.
Their cycle would have something to do with it.
It would absolutely have something to do with it. And,
I bet that Guyborg doesn't even have a cycle after all the roids she's done.
Oh my God. Really?
No, listen, if you know anything about steroids, you know that they affect your body.
Yeah.
You know that a bad cycle can damage your hormone production permanently.
Oh, yeah.
And we know that the female reproductive cycle is heavily dependent upon the hormone production in the body. Without being physicians, without being nurses or nurse practitioners or anything in the medical field, tell you with no medical authority that if you do roids, you will screw up your female cycle.
Right. And I mean, when she gets...
Whatever.
I mean, is it possible when she gets older she's going to grow a pretty rocky beard? Possibly. I mean, it all goes back to that hormones are, completely directing your body's chemistry to, like,
you're given a certain, you're given something, a set of cards, you're dealt a hand.
Right.
At birth. And that's genetically what you have to work with. And I'll give you just a little bit of info. At my heaviest, I was 177 pounds, and I was 7% body fat. I was eating everything in sight trying to get bigger. I was lifting as much as I could. Genetically, that's when my body would let me, without enhancement, without doing roids. That's when my hormones and everything would let me.
Okay.
I made a judgment call that it was not worth it to jeopardize my long-term future. And then, I quit lifting as much, quit eating as much, and I got, big. Like, no, it's not big muscular, big in the belly and small muscular. But you look at what Cyborg did. She looks better than I did at my heaviest. She's jacked. You're telling me that she didn't screw up her body with those roids? So, but completely, everything aside, I would want to see the fight if Cyborg could make 135. I think Cyborg poses a legitimate threat to Rousey at 135 if she could make the weight without dying.
Okay, if she does make the weight, she gets her music played, she's coming down to the octagon. What kind of shape is she in after that severe of a weight cut?
Well, realistically, you can lose muscle mass pretty quickly if you don't feed it.
Okay.
So honestly, I think that Cyborg could, do a caloric deficit for a period of time, continue training, maybe not at so much strength training, and her body would adjust and she would lose muscle mass. And she would continue to be lean, and when you lose some of that muscle mass, then she's able to effectively cut weight. If you want to come in to a 135-pound fight weighing 175 pounds, yeah, maybe Cyborg isn't going to be able to do that well. However, she could do it. I think it could be done. If she took the time, she could make it happen.
I understand the science behind what you're saying, Rob. I just don't think that's the ideal predicament for Cyborg. Cyborg's game is to out-brutalize her opponents. I mean, she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt. Last I checked, she might even be up to brown by now. I don't know. But Cyborg's Jiu-Jitsu is nowhere close to Rowdy's Judo. It's not even, they're not even cousins at this point. So Cyborg needs to count on being able to throw Rousey around the cage, to punch her in the face as hard as she can, and if she were to lose muscle mass and try to rely on being leaner and faster, I think she loses. Whereas if Rousey comes up to 45, if Cyborg was able to make weight, I think then Cyborg might have a shot at beating her.
All right, guys, we have about 5 minutes left on this topic. Let's just go for it right now.
Okay.
Would this be a title fight or a super fight? And either way,
here's what it would be.
Okay.
I'll get right to it.
Either way, who
It
wins?
would have to be a title fight at 135.
Okay.
Because the UFC likes to feed us fights that just are dumb. So we would have Cyborg, who's a 145-pound champion, dropping it in weight, even a contender fight, walking into a title fight, which that would be a whole other discussion for us to complain about.
Right.
On a side note, Albert Cyborg is a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Andre Galvao.
Okay.
And prior to that, she was a purple belt. She got a purple belt in 2008 or 9. So that's why I'm thinking that by now I would have thought she would have been a black belt. But anyway, and then again, that's xenophobia. Not xenophobia. That's a stereotype that I think that all Brazilian fighters have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. But I think that it would be if Cyborg has a good weight cut, if Cyborg does it intelligently, and I don't mean like the BJ10 last weight cut, but I think if Cyborg has a good weight cut, she comes in, I think she gives Rousey probably the toughest fight of her life by bashing her head in repeatedly, because we know Rousey doesn't like that.
Right.
But, part of me thinks that Cyborg's going to go in reckless, Cyborg's going to pull a Zingano, and Cyborg's going to get her arm broken.
In closing, I think it'd be extremely irresponsible for the UFC to make that a title fight, because there's no way in hell that Cyborg would make the weight cut twice.
So who wins?
It depends. I mean, I really don't think this fight would ever happen, because I don't think that.
You're picking one, Albert. You're picking one.
If it's at 35, it's Rousey. If it's a catch weight at 40 or 45, it's Cyborg.
Okay.
Why is it Rousey at 35 and not the other way around?
Because Cyborg would have to deplete too much of her genetic benefits to make it to Rousey where Rousey is.
So say 135 is Rousey's wheelhouse. That's
Yeah.
where she fights at. That's where she's best at.
Well, here's the thing, though. Okay, and I'm going back to judo. We're usually working with people that are bigger than us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not something that's alien to us as training with someone bigger. And okay, now granted, when Ronda was in judo, she was in the Olympics I think 17, gonna be 18 years old.
Right.
So she was at the 70 kilo division. I don't understand the metric system
I don't
and all that.
I'm not Canadian.
But
So.
I'm pretty sure that she could. I don't want to say it. Is 10 pounds really that big of a deal? I mean, realistically, from what these people cut from, I bet the difference is even smaller than 10 pounds. Is it that big of a deal? No, I don't think it is.
I think she could lengthen out her weight cut period. But I'll tell you who's a fantastic managing their weight. Charlie Gathers. I mean, he does. He has his timeline. He sets it out. He knows what he can take in. He knows when he needs to start making out. Maybe if she lengthened her weight cut schedule, maybe that 10 pounds wouldn't be that big of a deal. But trying to crash cut weight, trying to sweat it out, weighing in naked, trying to puke up.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
That's going to put a lot of stress on the body.
I'm specifically saying that even if the fight was at 140 or 145, like you had alluded to, that you think Cyborg still wins.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that Ronda doesn't lose any intensity by not having to cut as much. Ronda doesn't lose any of her skill set by not having to cut as much.
Okay.
And I think what will happen is, if Cyborg doesn't bash in Ronda's head, I think Ronda taps her out. Taps her out. That's what I think happens. If Cyborg either 135 or 145 does not knock out Rousey, I foresee Rousey catching her because she's going to get all excited and pull a Zingano and get her arm broken.
Understood. So, Rob says that Rousey wins. I'm saying that Cyborg wins given the circumstances. I'd actually like to take this discussion to Facebook.
Yeah.
So when you're watching this, we're gonna, post on Cage Nation TV's Facebook thread. What do you think? And then we're gonna put that conversation to bed forever. Cage Nation TV will never.
Eric,
will never.
ask you a question, Eric. I'm talking to my kid here. I got a kid who's almost 4. We're gonna ask him who wins. Hey, Eric, who wins, Ronda or Cris? Cris. Okay, my kid thinks Cris wins.
Okay.
How does he win? By KO? By KO.
By KO. All right.
Is he gonna fight?
Take it to Vegas. Take it to Vegas. Eric said so, all right? We're going to be back here in just a moment. That's going to wrap up that topic. We've got news on the Pittsburgh MMA scene and how things might possibly be changing in the near future. We've got all that coming up next on Cage Nation TV. Don't you go nowhere. Welcome back to Cage Station TV. Drew Shannon, Albert Cameron, Rob Lynn. It is the 1059 Quick Rock Studios, 315 South Atherton Street, and of course Quick Rock online at 1059QWIKrock.com. We put that down there.
You got it.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about the Pittsburgh MMA scene. Big fight last night, Gladiators of the Cage 16.
Yep.
In, where was that again?
Cheswick?
Was it Cheswick, yeah.
Yeah. Last night, of course, a lot of things went down, and there's a couple. When we say how does the Pittsburgh fight scene change after the event, the Pittsburgh fight scene should change after every event because guys are improving, they're getting better. Every time you win a fight, that puts you in a different spot in the pecking order.
Right.
And the pecking order, of course, being the title scene, the title hunt. That's how everything's changing. There's a couple things that happened last night via the results that Rob Lynn was there. He wrote up with all the results on Facebook last night. Thank you for that, Rob. But,
no problem. Sorry for any of the typos.
Oh, no, it's okay. I can hardly read the English language myself. I'm not going to fault you for anything you might have typoed. But last night there were some things that went down, and then wanted to cover a couple of them, and Drew will let you steer the ship.
All right, Dan Kikuta further cements his place as Pittsburgh middleweight contender with his win over Davis Horacio Jr.
We saw Davis.
Yeah, poor Davis's arm. Oh.
Now Dan pulled off an armbar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
oh yeah.
So Dan, who's a Muay Thai fighter, trains at a Wright's gym in Pittsburgh. I see on Facebook all the time that he works out with Jamie Chesney. And we saw Davis Horacio Jr. fight at CDMMA 10. He fought Robert Corpora all 27 seconds. We were there calling the action. And, you know, I felt kind of cheated that he finished Robert Corpora as fast as he did, because I would have liked to have seen Davis Horacio fight in Altoona a lot longer than he did. However, I really think that Dan Kikuta is becoming the man at middleweight. I think it's only a matter of time before we get more middleweights coming to challenge Dan Kikuta, and then the pro middleweight scene really becomes a lot more substantial.
Rob, your thoughts?
I think that my arm hurt watching that.
What, was it like a dislocation, Rob, or like the elbow capsule? Did it look like it was in any danger of being hurt?
I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about the elbow capsule. You know, I popped a few out in my day. But, okay, so, you know, the fight starts out. There's, you know, a quick kick inside. They end up scrambling to the ground. Dan, if I recall correctly, he goes, I'm not sure if it would be mission control or crackhead control, it's called in the Eddie Bravo system.
Right.
You know, but he's starting to work rubber guard, kind of.
Okay.
And it looks like he's going to go for an omoplata, but he ends up rolling it out, and he gets a straight arm lock with figure four on his legs. And I mean, at one point when he was rolling for the omoplata, he was trying to get it, but Davis was defending pretty well. He starts elbowing him across like the tricep and the elbow, and I'm thinking, oh, I would have tapped right there. And then, you know, he rolls him over, and it was pretty tight when he was belly up, but he ended up rolling it over belly down and tapping him out. It was bad. There's, you know, afterwards, you see Davis holding his arm, and there's some pretty good, you know, indication that there's something wrong, especially when when you have a pro fighter obviously in pain.
Yeah.
They can hide this stuff pretty well. And, you know, no one wants to be the guy who looks like he was hurt in a fight.
No.
If he's showing you he's hurt, then he's probably more hurt.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, well, when I said that, not so much surprised that Dan Kikuta was able to pull off an armbar. First time I watched Dan Kikuta fight, we're cage side, you know, Dan Kikuta certainly gives every impression he is a very, very skilled Muay Thai fighter,
right?
Including the trunks he wears.
Yeah, he comes in there with his passion. It's still how he is.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see, you know, more stuff from him to come.
Oh, as soon as he turned pro.
I would think is that the only thing I would think is that we're probably going to see him drop in weight.
You think he'll go to welterweight?
He looks he doesn't look like a big middleweight.
Okay.
You know.
But when Dan Kikuta turned pro, though.
Go ahead.
When Dan Kikuta turned pro, that opened up 8 new weapons to him that makes him a very dangerous human being, considering his Muay Thai pedigree. And I'm talking about the points of his elbows
absolutely.
and the points of his knees.
Yeah. You don't have that. You don't have all his weapons when you're an Andy.
Right.
No, I just like given the state of current MMA, where the fighters, it seems like they try and be as big as they can, and cut as much weight as they can to make the division hydrated. I just. Well, that's, you know, in a perfect world of, you know, hey, we don't cut 50 pounds to make the division, you know, yeah, he stays middleweight, but I just foresee him going.
A lot of people give Johnny Hendricks the same grief for that, but that's amateur wrestling. I mean, you try to be as big as possible, and you try to cut as much weight as possible to try to get in front of guys who may not have the same body mass that you do. It's a facet to the game to make you more dominant. That's amateur wrestling.
Yeah,
Dan,
I get that.
Dan Kikuta, when he first time I saw him fight was at North Shores Rise to Power 2. One, breaks his hand, probably one of the gnarliest handbrakes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there was a substantial protrusion from the fingers in the back of the hand. But Dan also is probably one of the most dynamic fighters I've ever seen. He was able to kick off the cage. He was able to, position. He had great body and cage awareness. And that's what I think is going to take Dan Kikuta to either welterweight or middleweight. He's going to be the guy you have to beat in Pittsburgh in either of those divisions.
All right, let's go to the next topic. Damian Teal getting a decision loss, but is the loss a more valuable learning experience than a win at this stage? Guys, how do you weigh in on this? Rob, let's start with you.
The Teal didn't look as, how do I want to say this? He looked softer than he usually does.
Okay.
He looks very muscular, very athletic build, but he looked like he was carrying a little bit more body fat than I've seen him before.
What did he fight at last night, Rob?
170.
Okay, so
John, came out. Jaquay, I'm not sure.
I think it's Jaquay.
He came out. He just overwhelmed him. Now let's not take anything away from Teal. He was trying the whole time. At no point did he give up. But it was. There's no one faulting the decision. We'll just put it like that.
So it wasn't like a David Shim situation?
No. And I think that here's what Teal's going to do. He was getting a lot of hype. I mean, this is what happens. You're an amateur, you go, you win a fight. Hey, you did great, you win another fight. All right, the momentum starts rolling. Well, it's good, I think, to get the loss early rather than late.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't want to say who it is, because I really don't want to hear him, call me up, blah, 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 blah. But I have a friend who's a fighter, and he was doing pretty well, and he ended up going 4-0. And everyone's like, oh, how you going to deal with losing and all that? I think he got to his head, and then he ended up going 500 after that. Ooh. And exactly, I think it would have been better for him to lose probably his first or second fight, learn from it, and then move on. But instead, he goes 500 as an AMI, and I think just above 500 as a pro now.
The thing with David Teal is, David Teal had 2 fights going into last night. The first fight being a CDMMA 10. The next fight, I believe, was a Gladiators fight. And the fight at CDMMA 10, that was the first fight of the night. We had no idea what happened. We know that the fight was called.
Right.
Like some ridiculous, not even like a minute into the fight. The fight was called. There was a knockout. Second fight, he wins a big decision in Gladiator. So, I mean, his nickname is the Freak of Nature. It's Damon the Freak of Nature Teal. When you when you go in, like you completely destroy a guy in the first round, and then you go in and win a hard fought decision victory, you almost want to lose after that point to bring yourself back down, to be grounded.
Right.
So that you don't get your ego inflated, so you don't think, oh, I'm the baddest MF
No one wants to lose.
No one wants to lose, but I mean, it's almost good for, like, I won't say your ego, but your perspective. You don't want to go around thinking you're the baddest MFer on the planet and then lose a fight that you thought to win. I think that's more damaging than what winning a fight early is, where you're supposed to be learning your paces. Ethan Goss said on Facebook, there was a friend of ours who was saying that amateur fights are meant to be fighting anyone, to figure out where you are, to test your mettle.
Right. Ethan
Goss says, now's where you're supposed to be fighting anybody. You don't pick your shots. You don't fight a guy because you think he's a good fight for you. NCAA Division I champion, fight him. Boxing Golden Gloves champion, fight him. Jiu-Jitsu black belt, fight him. And I thought that was really good perspective on Ethan Goss's, and I think that's what Damon Teal needed to learn going into that fight at the Gladiators. And I think he's going to do great things because of it.
All right. Jake Kozarowski getting another win. Is it time for him to turn pro, gentlemen? Rob, we'll start with you.
Well, you know what? I would say no.
Okay,
reasoning?
He looked apprehensive compared to, normal, a little bit nervous. I think he has another fight coming up here in a week.
Yeah.
2 weeks, 2 weeks. So let's view that one and reevaluate then. He's a 4-0 now, which is great. Wins this one, he's 5-0. Maybe after this coming week, we'll see.
Well,
he's had a lot of opponents back out of fights with him, so it's been hard. Maybe when you do finally get someone to show up, you're like, oh well, maybe he's not going to show up the night of the fight. I don't know, kind of deal where his head was at, but he does not look like the same Jacob that they would be in the pro discussion with me.
Well, he's 4-0. 3 of those wins were in Altoona. This is his first one in a metropolitan area.
Right.
The thing that impresses me,
and that might be part of it.
It could have been nerves. it could have been nervous knowing he's at a bigger stage. The thing that consistently impresses me about Jake Kozarowski is he'll go in and fight anyone, and he's a naturally hard hitter. And Rob, I'm sure you being on the perch in the camera, whenever he throws leather and it connects, it's a lot more audible than what other fighters can do. Like when Jake throws bombs, like he's a naturally hard hitter, and I can't pinpoint if it's because he turns his hips in just the right way, or if he's just got like naturally like dense deltoid muscles that he's able to throw leather like that. But when he hits, it's a lot more audible than what other guys are. And I've always been impressed with that with Jake Kozarowski. That's what's always stuck out in my head.
Yeah, I don't want hit by anybody. So. I don't want hit by Drew, so you know what I mean.
Yeah, you'll never have to worry about that, my friend. You never have to worry about that.
I know.
So Jake
I
Kozarowski
might pay you off.
So Jake Kozarowski's got another amateur fight, Rob, and then you think we'll talk about pro? Because he's fighting under advanced amateur rules now, isn't he?
I saw shin pads, I believe.
Okay, so he has...
You would ask me for details.
Okay, so shin pads, he's still fighting under amateur rules. Would you think of being 4-0 at this point, the next fight would almost have to be advanced amateurs?
Well, you don't know. You don't know what it was set up before when they made fights. That'd be a question for the promoter. It'd be a question for the matchmaker. I think that we're putting the cart before the horse.
Okay.
Here. I think that it'd be better just to do. You know what I mean?
Yep. Hey,
let's let him have his fifth fight. See where he's at.
Fair enough. And I think that brings us to the elephant in the room as far as Pittsburgh goes, and that would be Dominic Mazzata. His win last night.
Right. He had a bantamweight title win.
What are we talking about? There were two.
Oh yes.
What's that?
Well, there was 2 wins for Dominic Mazzata.
Well, yeah, let's get into the first one first. Dom, of course, winning the bantamweight title over Saylor, and he's going to be heading into Pinnacle. The other win for him last night was he proposed to his girlfriend, and she said yes.
And now he's heading into matrimony.
Now he's from match to matrimony.
From the mat factory to matrimony.
Ooh, that was good.
Thank you, Drew. That was good.
Thank you.
I feel like
can we before we review him, I think there's another fight on the card that we need to talk about.
Okay.
And it was Rob Hanna against Todd Bevan. Now, Rob just completely battered Todd, and it was a good fight because Todd was there. He was trying, but at one point towards the end of the fight, Todd's on the ground and he's getting pounded pretty good. And I remember, I think it was an elbow that gets through him, and it hits him, and you heard it. I'm like, oh, I don't like how that sounds. And that just set the pace. Like, you know how you watch a fight and you see a certain strike land on the ground, and it just is like, it opens up the floodgates for a salvo to just come out. And Chip sees enough. Chip's like, well, you know, and I guess the mindset would be, how many fighters have you seen completely turtled up on the ground, getting battered, come back and win?
Oh, it happens more often than not.
It does?
Well, I mean, when guys turtle up, they're usually on the business end of an ass kicking.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's likely that he's not coming back to win the fight.
Right.
So he's on the ground, he's getting battered, and Rob wins. Rob wins. Good fight. After they announced his next opponent, who it's going to be. And it's none other than Mike Wilkins.
Versus Rob Hanna.
Yeah, it's going to be a title fight.
At 55.
155-pound belt.
Which Mike Wilkins found out that he is on a short list of guys who's going to be trying out for the Ultimate Fighter here shortly.
Yeah, so, no, I'm a Mike Wilkins fan.
Oh,
I'm admittedly biased. I am 100% biased on this. I'm an idiot too, apparently, because Mike is was an electrician. And someone told me he retired. I thought, you know, that was just a joke. And every time I see him, you know, because I remember when he was at CD MMA, when I was a matchmaker, I had him on the card. And I remember he said, hey, if you're getting electrical work in the greater Pittsburgh area or wherever it was, call Wilkins Electric. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, you know, because I work in the trades too, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I like this. And for whatever reason, Wilkins Electric stuck out to me. And I just said to him last night, I was like, Wilkins Electric. He's like, dude, you know I retired, right? I'm like, I do this every time. You know, I don't know if maybe he was just tired of it. But when they announced the fight, I was like, hey, you know, you're the heavy favorite for this one.
Well, Gladiators needs to be thinking about the next generation of main eventers, and I posted a blog article about it before that I think Mike Wilkins is a good choice for it. So you know, good luck to Mike. Hopefully he does make the Ultimate Fighter House. I think in the UFC, as far as the UFC is concerned, it's almost better to get in the Ultimate Fighter House because you're getting a lot more hype around you. But Dominic Mazzata, and thank you, Rob, for interjecting the Rob Hanna.
Yeah, I apologize.
No, I'm glad you did.
You're fine.
I'm glad you did. Dominic Mazzata wins the Gladiators Cage Bantamweight Championship. And now his next scheduled fight is May 9th for Pinnacle FC. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
So we got about 3 minutes. How does this affect things?
Well, it affects things that if, and I talked to Rob about this offline, if Mazzata gets picked up by the UFC after a fight with Pinnacle, I think that might skew things because we all know that national media, especially national sports coverage, has a chance to bias things. It would almost appear that Pinnacle FC, a fantastic promotion, might have been the launching pad for Mazzata, where I think a lot of Mazzata's highlight reel fights were in Gladiators. And you know, to take a title from Gladiators to Pinnacle.
Well, one of the most hyped fights in Gladiators in Gladiators history involved
Dominic Mazzata against the Pinnacle fighter.
Against a Pinnacle fighter, Corey No Love Garbrandt.
Yeah, Cody.
And that was
Cody,
last year.
What's that?
Wasn't that last week? Or last week?
That was 1 year ago today.
And I need to preface. I think Pinnacle FC is a fantastic promotion, and if they're able to get the guys to UFC, absolutely, let's all do it. But I don't know.
Personally, I think, and this is just me, I think it's much to do about nothing that you're worrying about it, that they're going to get credit for it. And this is the reason I feel this way. It's simply because the average fan doesn't really care, you know, where the person came from. Like the average UFC Just Bleed fan. And I'll show you this. Just Bleed fan is a great film. The average fan that, you know, maybe catches a fight here and there, and they're talking with their buddies at work, they're not going to go, oh yeah, that was that Pinnacle that brought him up.
Right.
And the facts are going to be maligned probably by the media machine.
Right.
Of the UFC, if anyone. But the true fans, they're going to research it. They're going to know. And with everything being so available at the click of a fingertip here, you know, Dom Fight Record Wiki, you know, bang, you'll see exactly where it was coming from. During his fight last night, though, wow, it was a submission clinic, and I thought for sure he's going to win rear naked choke. He's taking the back repeatedly, and he kept doing his armbar transition, and I don't know if I liked it or I did like it. He's rolling for the armbar, he's trying to break the grip free, and he leans, and this old judo guy, you know, we've always leaned up towards the head, you know, to break the grip kind of deal, whatever, put the one foot across the instep, push the arm away kind of deal. He leaned down towards the leg, underhooked the leg, and took his other leg, and he was just pushing it across the face to break the grip. Oh, you know, he lost the transition twice on it, but anyway, I'm sorry, I'm just, I like to think about submission.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Well, what we're actually going to do is we're going to take a quick break. I think we're going to cut the next segment short by a little bit because I think there's more that needs to be talked about with the Pittsburgh MMA scene.
But we are going to be talking about UFC.
We are going to be talking about a little bit of UFC. Anthony Pettis and Carla Esparza both dropped titles, but there is a thought I wanted to get in about the Pittsburgh scene before we do that. So we're going to take a quick break.
You're watching Cage Nation TV. Stick around.
Cage Nation TV is brought to you by Lion Country's Rock Station 105.9 Quick Rock. Streaming worldwide at 1059quickrock.com.
Welcome back to our final segment of Cage Nation TV for this week. Drew Shannon, Albert Cameron, Rob Lynn via phone. Albert, you wanted to touch a little bit more on the Pittsburgh fight scene before we get into our next topic.
Now that now that Dominic Mazzata is bantamweight champion, I'm kind of curious as to who becomes the contender now. And the nice thing about Pittsburgh being where it is, it's Ohio's right nearby, West Virginia's close, Virginia, and I guess New York would be in there. I mean, Gladiators has pulled people from as far as New Mexico, I believe. But I'm kind of curious who's the contender for Mazzata's title now. And like, you know, even when he fights for Pinnacle, who does he fight? Because he needs to be thinking, he's a title holder now. He needs to be thinking, what is going to be the next high-profile fight that gets me in front of Dana White? And I don't know who that is. And I was curious if you guys had an idea. And that's the problem with being... Yeah. Like, you know, that's the challenge for a matchmaker now. Who do you put in front of Mazzata to make it? Because
to get him to the next level.
To get him to the next level, because I'm sure once Mazzata does, and it's not a matter of if, I think at this point, I think it's a matter of when.
Okay.
Because he does have the same Matt Factory credentials as Dempsey. He's winning titles. He's winning fights. He's also doing very well promoting himself to get in front of those higher profile promotions. I mean, he just beat Brandon Soku Saylor, who is a Bellator veteran. And I know the joke, oh, hey, you know, like anyone can get on Bellator, but he won on Bellator and won. Right. Which makes him a little bit more high profile. So who's next for Mazzata? I think that's the question we need to be thinking about.
Most definitely. Well,
I don't know. Like that's a question for the matchmakers in Pittsburgh, and you know I don't envy them at this point. So moving on.
No,
all right.
What do you mean? Like who he fights is a question for the matchmakers?
Yeah.
Who does he fight next?
Because I mean, with that win over Saylor, I mean his stock did go up. You know, his stock went up, and you know I think we know what rematch that I think most people are asking for once he does hit the main stage. I don't think it needs to be said.
I think that the regional scene, anybody with maybe 2 or 3 win streak in that division would be someone to consider, you know, as an opponent for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And you know, the bantamweight division isn't the most densely populated in state college. I think featherweight and lightweight are the divisions in Pittsburgh.
Exactly, and I think he might find that as a problem that he runs into.
I've seen Mazzata fight at featherweight. I mean, honestly, I'd like to see Mazzata go up to featherweight and fight Mark Jericho. I think.
Oh, that would be interesting.
That would be interesting. Not because there's malice there, but because that would be a fantastic fight for the Pittsburgh scene to fight. I'm not the match.
You need to think about that too, because I think Dom's strength is obviously his jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And Jericho, you know, he likes to fight you, grind you.
Oh yeah.
Close to you, so he wouldn't be afraid to get in. He would not be afraid to be in Dom's guard at all.
No, he would not. Mark Jericho's fearless. He really is, and Mazzata is very, very good with jiu-jitsu being his strength, and so let's all be thinking about that, Cage Nation. I mean, could that fight come together? I don't know. It depends on what each guy has got going on, but I think that'd be a great fight for Pittsburgh. I think it would be a big Pittsburgh fight, and maybe on the same level as Garbrandt versus Mazzata.
In the time that we have right now, we have very little time in our final segment. Let's touch upon last night's UFC fights. A couple of titles dropping.
Yep.
Anthony Pettis dropping his title to Rafael Dos Anjos. What do you guys think about an immediate rematch? Should that happen or no?
From what?
5-round decision where Pettis lost every single round.
Yeah, Pettis got spanked.
Yeah.
Does it really need to happen? You know, maybe.
I mean, maybe. I mean,
that division's pretty stacked.
Yeah. What's featherweight?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In
lightweight.
Lightweight. Okay. My bad. As a lightweight, the UFC lightweight division is really stacked. I mean, MMA around the country right now is really heavy as far as the lighterweights go. I was sitting there thinking, what's the last regional heavyweight fight I saw, and it was in Johnstown, and that was a long time ago.
That was quite a while ago.
I think
a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Rafael Dos Anjos, I think he brings his own pecking order to the title scene now, because I mean he decisively won. There is no question about that. And Pettis got taken.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Now, I think what there is to consider about that is that Okay, when you have and me, I'm annoyed with the immediate rematches. There doesn't need to be 53 fights back and forth between the title, average out the mean, and find out who's the true champion.
Right.
You beat the guy, move on. It should be other people, going in and out of the order. And I think there are plenty of people for Dos Anjos to fight.
Yeah. While
Pettis, is not a contender. You don't go from champion to like number 30.
Right.
But there's many people, many matches that need to happen.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, don't tie up the title picture for the next 2 years with 53 rematches.
It's the same thing that happened in the heavyweight division whenever Arlovsky was champion. He lost to Tim Sylvia.
Yeah.
He lost to Tim Sylvia, and then all of a sudden we had to have another rematch. And then I think there was a third one after that. It was a
We're talking about the middleweight title picture right now.
Okay.
What's going on with middleweight?
I couldn't tell you because Chris Weidman's been hurt and.
How many fights how many title fights
in the last year?
Chris Weidman had. Period.
One.
No, he's had more than one total.
No, in total, but I'm saying as a champion.
Okay.
As a champion.
He fights for the title. He beats Anderson Silva. He gets the title.
Right.
Oh, it has to have an immediate rematch. And you know what? Maybe I agree with that one because of who he beat. So then he beats Anderson Silva again. Well, Anderson Silva beats Anderson Silva.
Well, he almost wants to say that I'm the guy who decisively beat Anderson Silva. It was not a fluke.
So then we tied up the title for that whole time, and then he fights Udom Cheetah, and then he's been injured, and the title has not been active since July 5th, 2014.
Okay.
So, and I maybe it's a bad example because Anderson Silva is like his own breed. Maybe he did deserve, an immediate rematch. But at the same time, I don't know if I agree with that 100%.
Right. I think Rafael Dos Anjos has other people who are in line now, because now anytime there's a title change, the title picture changes with it. So Dos Anjos had people who were in line to fight him, and I think now that Dos Anjos was able to secure a title win, I think the people who are in line to fight him now get their stock bumped up by association. I think it's only fair because Pettis is no longer relevant as champion. It's Rafael Dos Anjos and the people who were in line to fight him now.
Guys, we've got less than 3 minutes left. Let's touch upon Carla Esparza.
Oh, jeez.
Dropping her women's 125-pound title to Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Who's the next contender?
I don't care. It's anyone who's...
Drew is the next contender because he was able to say it.
It helps when the last name is spelled out phonetically on my notes, so thank you very much, Albert. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Carla Esparza, being the first women's 125-pound champion, she was champion because someone had to be. That season of The Ultimate Fighter was set out to crown a women's 125 champion, and they pretty much took Invicta's strawweight division, put it in an episode, put it in a season of The Ultimate Fighter, like, okay, fight it out. She was the number one seed, and I mean, you figure if you're number one seed, you probably have a 50% chance of winning the whole title, winning the whole tournament because you were the number one seed.
Right.
I can't say that, and I agree with you. I can't say that the whole title scene for that, the winner is the champ. The winner of the season is the champ.
Exactly.
I can't say that I really enjoyed that. The season was not really anything that resonated to me. And, maybe, I don't know, is this part of the Zuffa machine watering down the product?
It's certainly Zuffa watering down the division.
Or is it, we've seen, Tough how many times now?
20.
Maybe we remember the original. Maybe, we remember the first couple. Maybe the nostalgia lost on us. And this happens all the time. Music. Oh, the older band was so much better than the new band. And, I remember hearing when I was younger, people say, oh, current Aerosmith completely stinks compared to old Aerosmith. And I'm like, oh, why would you say that? You're always a fan. And then here I say the same thing. Current Metallica, current Megadeth.
Oh, yeah.
Old bands, they're great. And the same thing with, it goes on and on. So is it part of the nostalgia is lost on us and the show is like really a good show? And I'll touch on this with one other comparison. I saw a meme going on online.
Okay.
The Keanu Reeves looking dopey.
Yeah.
And you know how tricks used to be fruit shaped?
Yeah.
And now they're just like colored balls. And the meme was, you know, what if tricks really still are fruit shaped and just we're grown up and we can't see it now? you know what I mean? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe we are Keanu Reeves and life is a bunch of colored balls. Wow, that's bad.
Gentlemen, we're going to have to wrap.
You're laughing.
We're going to wrap this up on that note. Rob Lynn, we want to thank you once again for joining us via phone, and thank you for being a part of Cage Nation TV for 1 year. Happy anniversary, my friend.
Thank you for having me too. I really appreciate it.
We got another fun-filled year coming up. We will be at Pinnacle FC on May 9th. And then whatever fights come down the pipe. Therefore, before May 9th, though, we've got Complete Devastation MMA 11.
Yes, we do.
Which the main event has been now promoted to Billy the Psycho Ward versus Brad the Machine Gun Mountain.
Special guest appearance, by the way, of Charlie the Spaniard Brenneman. He'll be there.
He will not be fighting, but he will be an appearance. And he's on the UFC roster, isn't he, Rob?
I don't know if he was cut or not. I think, you know what? We have 10 seconds. I'll take a quick look here.
Okay. But we got Charlie the Spaniard Brenneman who's coming back. Ring announcer extraordinaire Drew Shannon will be back in the middle of the cage. He'll be doing his ring announcing duties.
My 11th CD MMA.
His 11th CD MMA. This will be my 10th. My 10th. And
He is still listed as active on their site.
Okay, so UFC fighter Charlie the Spaniard Brenneman will be there. I'm sure he'll be willing to talk. I'm told that if you're in the State College Altoona area, that there is a certain radio station who might be doing something about possibly getting you in the doors.
1059 Quick Rock going to be giving you the chance to win tickets to see CDMMA 11 in Altoona. So be listening for more details. You can check our website, you can check our Facebook page, and of course, certainly listen to me from 10 to 3, Monday through Friday. Andy, Rob, 3 to 7. For your chance to win tickets to Complete Devastation MMA 11. That'll do it for us. I think we've gone over a lot of time, but
a little bit.
Just a smidge. Again, thanks to Albert Cameron, Rob Lynn. Thank you for calling in. I'm Drew Shannon. We'll see you next time on Cage Nation TV.
Let's go!